Hello viewers, welcome back to the video series on operating system concepts. This is Kiran Shinde, Assistant Professor IICMR MCA Pune. In my last video lecture, we discussed upon the features of real-time operating system, and the first feature we discussed, that was scheduling. Today we are going to discuss on resource allocation. So let's start. So today's point of discussion will be how the resource allocation is done in real-time operating system. What are the various factors in allocating the resource in RTOS? So let's start. First of all, let us try to understand what is resource allocation. In computing, the resource allocation is necessary for any application to be run or to be executed on the system. Essentially, when the user opens any program, this will be counted as a process. A running program is always called as a process. You might have heard about it. And therefore, it requires the computer to allocate certain resources for it to be able to run with the CPU. Such resources could have access to a section of the computer's memory, or it may require the data in a device interface buffer, or it can require one or more files and the required amount of processing power. So all these are nothing but the required resources for a program which is in running state and which is called as a process. So far, we have assumed that CPU is a serial resource. It means one process will consume CPU power, and after it finishes consuming the CPU power, then only the other process will start. But in this particular topic, we will see how it can be made in parallel manner, how it can be used by one task, rather more tasks at a time. A task which can be preempted at any time without affecting its correctness. Now, let us try to understand what do you mean by non-serial or non-preemptible resource. We saw that serial resource is nothing but a preemptible resource. Means like one process is occupying that particular resource, then that particular process will be using it till its time. Now, non-preemptible resource are also called as non-serial resource. A non-preemptible resource is one that cannot be taken away from the process. That it cannot be forcibly terminated from that particular process. Example of non-preemptible resource can be a CD-ROM or a CD read-write resource, which are not preemptible at any arbitrary moment. Second example of non-preemptible resource can be a printer, which is again when a process has been granted to that particular printer, a process must finish its operation without being interrupted. So these are two popular examples of non-preemptible resources such as CD and printer. Now there are many more examples. A few are listed here: files, data structures, device drivers, and many more. Now let us try to understand how this resource allocation is done in RTOS. The issues with scheduling also applicable here. Now we have seen there are three different types of scheduling in my last video session. The resources can be allocated in weighted round robin fashion, or it can be allocated based on priority. So these are the two popular ways the resource can be allocated in RTOS: weighted round robin and priority based. Now, traditional solution to solve critical section problem, as we also know that, is using semaphores. Now, why I have directly jumped here with respect to critical section topic, because in my process synchronization video, you must have seen that when there are more than one process trying to allocate or trying to use a resource at the same time, then how that particular problem can be solved by making use of semaphore. And whenever more than one process try to access an object or a shared resource, okay, that time if that particular object is in a section where that particular section is called as shared section, that particular object can be accessed by any other process as well. So such sensitive section is called as critical section, wherein the data which is to be shared by more than one process is kept. So we have seen that in order to solve the critical section problem, how the semaphore variable is used. But here we are not talking about the traditional solutions. Here we need to understand how the resource allocation problem can be resolved in real-time operating system. So let's see. The basic problem in real-time operating system with respect to resource allocation is priority inversion. Now, first of all, we will discuss the two main problems of resource allocation in RTOS, that is priority inversion, and second is unbounded priority inversion. So first of all, let us try to understand what you mean by priority inversion. A task instance executing in its critical section. Now I have again revised what is critical section. It's nothing but a shared portion or an area in your program or in your code, okay, which is called as a shared portion, wherein the object which is specified in that particular shared portion or shared section can be accessed by multiple tasks or by multiple processes. That section is called as critical section. So a task instance executing in its critical section cannot be preempted. Why? Because it is already using that particular resource, right? And what will be the consequence of this? A high priority task may keep on waiting. Why? Because the resource which the high priority task is also wanting to complete its execution is already acquired by some other process, and that particular process may be having lower priority as compared to high priority process. So such kind of problem is called as priority inversion, because here why it is called inversion, the task which is having high priority still it is actually going on into the waiting state, and the low priority task which is accessing the particular instance in its critical section is continued accessing that resource. Such problem is called as priority inversion. Now here we can see a simple image. When a resource needs to be shared in the exclusive mode, a task may be blocked by a lower priority task which is holding the resource. Now from this image you can understand this T is representing the task, H is for high priority, L is for low priority. Now here you can see that this R is nothing but the resource which is acquired by a task, and that task is having lower priority. And this particular resource, the high priority task is also waiting for. So such scenario is called as priority inversion problem. Now, let us try to understand the second problem with respect to resource allocation in RTOS, which is called unbounded priority inversion. Consider the scenario: a low priority task is holding a resource. A high priority task is waiting for that particular resource. But meanwhile, what happened? The intermediate priority tasks came in. Those do not need the resource which is acquired by the low priority task. So what they did? They repeatedly preempt the low priority task from CPU usage. Means what? The intermediate priority task came in and they are not at all needing the resource which is acquired by the low priority task. But still they want to execute certain other operations for which they engaged, or they actually, I can say, preempt the low priority task from the CPU usage. So we can understand this particular scenario with a simple chart. Here you can see on the this particular axis, y-axis, the tasks are mentioned. Okay, then below you can see on the x-axis the CPU usage time is mentioned, right? And now you can see here that this T1 task, okay, this task is having high priority, which is designated with a red color. This is a low priority task, which is here mentioned with a green color, right? And these are some intermediate tasks which are mentioned with a blue color. Now, what has happened here in this particular scenario is this T6 task, which is having low priority, it is accessing certain resource in the critical section. Now, the same resource is actually required by the high priority task, which is T1. Now, what T1 will do? Obviously, it has to wait till this low priority task release this particular resource. But meanwhile, what happened? Many of the intermediate priority tasks came in. Intermediate priority tasks means the tasks having priority higher than the low priority tasks, but less than the higher priority tasks. So such tasks are called as intermediate priority tasks. So what happened? Such tasks came in and they started executing with the CPU without requiring the resource which was holded by the low priority task. And obviously it can happen. So what actually it resulted in? It resulted in making this low priority task unnecessarily halt. Why? Because the CPU was snatched from this particular low priority task, and these intermediate priority tasks actually use the CPU for execution. So this particular time period, the low priority task had to wait for the CPU. And then after this, at this particular point of time, the low priority task again got the CPU, it executed with the CPU, consumed the resource as per its need, and then released the resource. But if you see on the top of this particular chart, the high priority task, that is T1, had to wait till that particular resource was released by the low priority task. But then, why this problem is called as unbounded priority inversion? Because if you see the takeaway, this is again one more variation on the previous image. You can see here that this is the low priority task, which is holding a resource, which is required by this particular high priority task as well. In between, the intermediate priority tasks came in and executed with the CPU. So, number of priority inversions suffered by a high priority task can become unbounded. What do you mean by that? A high priority task in such scenario can miss its deadline, and it actually can result in just waiting state, and that particular waiting time will sometime it can be unpredictable, because unless and until the resource which is holded by the low priority task is released, the high priority task will not be in a position to continue with its execution with the CPU, right? So such kind of problem is called as unbounded priority inversion, because here the priority was inverted. Even though that particular task was having high priority, it was inverted by a low priority task as well as intermediate priority tasks. Now, very popular and celebrated example of unbounded priority inversion is Mars Pathfinder. Now, in this particular video, I'm not going to discuss more details about this, because you can easily find this information on Google, like what was the scenario with Mars Pathfinder, but we will just discuss on brief details. Now, this particular Mars Pathfinder landed on the Mars surface on July 4th, 1997. It bounced onto the Martian surface surrounded by airbags, deployed the Sojourner rover, gathered and transmitted voluminous data back to Earth. It included the panoramic pictures released by NASA and now available on the web. But then what happened? What went wrong? The Pathfinder suddenly began experiencing frequent system resets. Each time it resulted in huge loss of data. The newspapers reported these failures using terms such as software glitches, the computer was trying to do too many things at once, and so many news came out, right? But actually, the problem behind the system, rather the Mars Pathfinder system was getting reset, was unbounded priority inversion. So basically, what happened and what were the different tasks? As I said, it is published onto Google. So I felt that I should not include this in my video because the information is readily available on the public domain. Now, what is the solution to unbounded priority inversion? The solution to unbounded priority inversion is priority inheritance. What do you mean by that? In real-time computing, priority inheritance is a method for eliminating unbounded priority inversion problem. Using this programming method, a process scheduling algorithm increases the priority of a process to the maximum priority of any other process, waiting for any resource on which A has a resource lock. Very simple solution. Means what is the takeaway of this particular solution? Priority inheritance. Using certain kind of a program, a process scheduling algorithm, what it does, it increases the priority of that particular process to the maximum level or to the maximum priority of any other process waiting for any resource on which this A process has a resource lock. Okay, and because of which what will happen? Obviously, since the priority of that process A is increased as compared to all other processes, it will get chance to use that resource and continue its execution. Now, the next feature of RTOS we are going to talk on, it is interrupt handling. As you must have studied what is interrupt, the processor can be interrupted in following different ways. Number one, it can be interrupted by an external signal, which can be generated by any IO peripheral. It can be interrupted by an internal signal, which can get generated by a special instruction in the program. You may have come across many kind of linker error, logical error when you have practiced on certain programming languages such as C, C++, right? And the third scenario can be an internal signal which is generated due to an exceptional condition which occurs while executing an instruction. So these are the typical scenarios wherein the processor can get interrupted. So these are some registers or special flags which are maintained in the system so that the processor can understand and the operating system can assist the processor in making understanding this particular interrupt scenario, interrupt flag, interrupt service routine, and interrupt vector table. Now, interrupt flag, of course, it will be set when there is an interrupt. ISR, it is nothing but an interrupt service routine, which will take care of the type of the interrupt which has occurred. It is also called as interrupt handler. And the third factor in interrupt handling is IVT, that is interrupt vector table. Now, this is again a database which maintains the address of the ISRs. The typical interrupt cycle, you can see in this particular slide. The processor checks for interrupt. If no interrupt, obviously it will fetch the next instruction and start executing. If interrupt, then the different tasks the processor actually has to undergo: suspend execution of the current program, save the context of the current program by making use of PCB. We have already talked on that, process control block. Set PC, that is program control register, to start address of the interrupt handler routine by checking the IVT, that is your interrupt vector table, process the interrupt and restore the context and continue interrupted program. So these are the typical phases, or I can say these are the typical steps through which the processor has to go through when there is an interrupt. Now these are some types of interrupt cycles: hardware interrupt, software interrupt. There are two types of hardware interrupts, maskable interrupt and non-maskable interrupt. And software interrupt, there are actually 256 types of software interrupt. But as I said, like I gave you a simple example, you may have come across array overflow error, or maybe linker error, logical error, right? Then divide by zero error, right? So these are all simple examples of software interrupt. Some important definitions in real-time operating system. Interrupt latency, what do you mean by that? It is nothing but the time between the generation of an interrupt by a device and the servicing of the device which generated the interrupt. So it is the complete time between actually when the interrupt was generated by a device and the servicing of that particular device which generated the interrupt. Interrupt response means what? It is defined as the time between reception of the interrupt and the start of the code which will handle the interrupt. Okay? In what time that particular the code or the ISR will handle the particular interrupt. Third important aspect in case of interrupt handling is interrupt recovery. It is defined as the time which is required for the processor to return to the interrupted code. So these are the three time intervals which are very, very important as far as the interrupt handling is concerned: interrupt latency, interrupt response time, and interrupt recovery time. Now, last couple of slides with respect to the real-time operating system. What are the disadvantages of RTOS? Of course, the first disadvantage is limited tasks. There are only limited tasks run at the same time, and the concentration of these tasks or the systems are on the few applications to avoid errors, and other tasks have to wait. So in case of real-time operating system, there is limit on the number of tasks which can be handled at a time. Use heavy system resources, obviously, since it is handling the tasks in real-time mode, so it actually consumes the resources also in real-time mode, so it uses lot of system resources. Third disadvantage, it is actually having low multitasking. I think this third disadvantage is quite similar to the first one. Yes, it uses complex algorithms to achieve the desired output, and it is very difficult to write that algorithms for a designer. Then expensive, yes, RTOS are usually very expensive because of the resources they need to work on. Of course, since the algorithms I have already mentioned are quite complex, so those are not easy for the programmer. The designer have to write proficient program for real-time operating system, which is not easy as a piece of cake. So these are certain disadvantages with respect to real-time operating system. So I hope you understood whatever concepts we discussed in this particular video lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my next video.